The sand is still warm when the first flipper breaks through. It is not a dramatic arrival. There is no fanfare, no audience, only a small dark head pushing upward through grains that shift and fall back like water. The hatchling pauses. Its eyes, barely open, take in a world it has never seen. Behind it, the nest hums with the movement of dozens more. Ahead of it, the ocean glows faintly under a moon that has not yet reached its peak. This is the moment the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration calls the normal hatchling emergence process. It is also the most dangerous 60 seconds of this creature's life. What happens next will decide everything. And here is the counterintuitive truth that most people never hear. Helping a baby sea turtle is the fastest way to kill it. The instinct to reach out is overwhelming. The hatchling is small enough to fit in a cupped palm. Its shell is soft, its body still carrying the yolk sac that sustained it through incubation. Wildlife guidance is blunt about this fragility. Baby sea turtles are super fragile, and you can easily damage their soft shell and organs, or even break their food sac. But the danger of human hands is not only physical. There is something else at stake, something invisible that begins the moment those flippers touch the sand. The crawl is not just a journey, it is a lesson. It is a calibration of muscle, of direction, of memory, and it is a race against time, against exhaustion, against shadows that move at the edges of the moonlight. Night falls over the nesting beach in a slow blue hush. The air carries salt and the low rhythm of waves that never quite stop. Beneath the surface of the sand, the hatchlings have been waiting for the temperature to drop. Heat signals day, cool signals safety. When the sand finally cools enough, the emergence begins. The first hatchling digs upward with flippers that seem too small for the task. It rests. It digs again. Around it, siblings stir in the same patient rhythm. This is not chaos. It is a coordinated release, timed to the darkness, that offers the best chance of survival. The Loggerhead Marine Life Center, which rehabilitates sea turtles on the Florida coast, describes these hatchlings as highly vulnerable during the crawl to the sea. Predators and other threats make this a dangerous stage, but the vulnerability is precisely why the crawl matters. Here is what most people do not see. The crawl is the hatchling's first workout. Every push of those flippers against the sand builds muscle that will be needed for a swim that could last for days. Every pause and restart teaches the body to manage energy. The Florida Museum guidance is clear that hatchlings need to move over wet sand to gain strength, but the physical effort is only half of the story. The other half is happening inside the hatchling's brain, and that part cannot be seen at all. The hatchling reaches the surface and stops. The beach stretches before it, a wide ribbon of sand between the dune line and the water. The ocean is not always visible. Sometimes it is a sound. Sometimes it is a brightness on the horizon. The hatchling does not deliberate. It does not weigh options. It moves instinctively toward the lowest and brightest horizon, which on a natural beach is almost always the sea. This orientation is not random. Scientists have studied it for decades. In 2004, a team led by researcher Kenneth Lohman published findings in the journal Nature, showing that sea turtles use the Earth's magnetic field for orientation and navigation. It is not a simple sense. It is a way of reading the planet itself, of feeling the invisible lines of magnetic force that wrap around the globe. The hatchling is not just crawling to the water. It is reading the beach. It is recording data that will matter years from now when it is fully grown and ready to return. Researchers describe this as imprinting. In 2011, a study led by Nathan Putman in the journal Current Biology showed that sea turtles can learn or imprint geographic magnetic signatures that help guide later migration. Think about that for a moment. A creature the size of a human hand carrying a yolk sac and barely able to lift its head is building a map that will guide it across thousands of miles of open ocean. It is learning where it was born. It is learning where it must one day return. And it can only do this by crossing the sand on its own. This is the part of the journey that no one can do for them. You have probably learned directions by muscle memory, the turn you take without thinking on your way home, the way your body knows the stairs in the dark. This little turtle is doing something far older. It is not remembering a route. It is feeling the magnetic field of its birthplace and committing it to a deep and permanent memory. If the crawl is interrupted, that memory never forms. The hatchling moves. It is slow. It is awkward. It stops to rest, and each rest costs time it does not have. On the open beach, the threats are constant. Ghost crabs wait at the edges of the sand. Birds cut silent circles overhead. A single gull can end the journey in a single motion, and the hatchling cannot outrun it. Sea turtles are highly vulnerable during the crawl. It is not hyperbole. It is biology, but the hatchling keeps moving. Each flipper stroke pushes it closer. Each pause allows its heart to slow. The wave sound grows louder. The sand beneath its belly grows cooler and wetter. It is almost there. And then sometimes the light changes. Not all lights on a beach are natural. When a hatchling sees the glow of a street lamp or a beachfront building, it does not understand what it is seeing. The instinct to move toward the brightest horizon is older than any human structure. It evolved on beaches that were dark except for the moon and the stars. Artificial light breaks that ancient rule. Researchers Blair Witherington and R. Eric Martin documented this in 2000. Their work on artificial lighting showed that brightness can disorient hatchlings and interfere with their seaward crawl. The science is direct. The results are visible on beaches around the world, where hatchlings are found crawling inland, away from the water, drawn by light that no longer means safety. The Loggerhead Marine Life Center puts it simply. The guidance is clear and direct. Turn off lights and minimize light pollution. It is not a suggestion for the sake of aesthetics. It is a matter of survival for animals that cannot tell the difference between a moonlit horizon and a parking lot. A hatchling that follows the wrong light will crawl until it collapses. It will dehydrate. It will be found by predators or by heat. It will never reach the water. And the cause is not a predator. The cause is a light left on. That image stays with you. A hatchling crawling toward a parking lot, following a light that means nothing. Subscribe to keep walking through these small hidden struggles that shape the wild. In the comments, type the word dark if this shifted how you see a single porch light. The impact of light pollution does not stop at the beach. It follows the hatchlings inland where roads and drainage ditches become traps. In Florida, where sea turtle nesting is concentrated, conservation groups spend nesting season monitoring beaches and dimming lights. The work is constant. The need is real. And the message repeats every season with the same urgency. The next question is the one that matters most. If the crawl is so important, what happens when someone decides to help? It feels kind, it feels right. The hatchling is struggling. The ocean is close. A pair of hands can carry it there in seconds. But the science is clear on this point, and it contradicts every human instinct. The Florida Museum states it without qualification. Do not put disoriented or injured hatchlings in the ocean. The Loggerhead Marine Life Center is just as direct. Do not pick up or move hatchlings. These are not cautions about legal protection, though that exists. They are warnings grounded in the biology of the animal. A hatchling that is carried to the water misses the crawl. It misses the muscle development. It misses the imprinting. It arrives in the ocean exhausted in a different way. Unbuilt, uncalibrated, without the internal map it needed. The turtle that is helped is often the turtle that is lost. The egg tooth is another hidden detail. Every hatchling carries this small temporary point on its beak. It is used to break through the egg during hatching. It falls off within days. But it is a reminder of how many small, precise systems must work together for a hatchling to survive. Interference does not respect those systems. The body itself is tuned for the experience. The flippers need the resistance of sand, the lungs need the rhythm of exertion, the brain needs the sequence of sensory inputs that only the crawl provides. None of this can be transferred. None of it can be done by proxy. There is a particular kind of grief in watching a hatchling that has been interrupted. It reaches the water without the muscle memory. It swims without the internal map. It moves, but it does not know where it is going. The deep ocean is enormous. The currents are powerful. Without imprinting, a hatchling can drift for days without direction, and the open ocean does not forgive disorientation. Putman's 2011 study in Current Biology described the imprinting process in detail. Sea turtles learn the magnetic signature of their natal beach during the crawl. That signature becomes a reference point for the rest of their lives. When it is time to breed, they return to that same signature. They navigate across oceans to find it. But they can only return to a place they remember, and they can only remember it if they crawled across it themselves. The stakes could not be higher. The entire life cycle of a sea turtle depends on that one journey. It is the foundation of everything that follows, and it is fragile. The good news is that survival is not a matter of luck alone. It is a matter of distance, of timing, of the moon being bright enough to guide, but not so bright that it washes out the horizon. On a natural beach under a natural sky, the odds improve. The hatchling reaches the water. It touches the first cool shock of salt. Its flippers change motion, from pushing against sand to pulling through water. The transformation is immediate and complete. At the moment the hatchling enters the surf, the energy system switches. The crawl was a sprint. The swim is a marathon. The body that built muscle on the beach is the same body that will now navigate the open ocean. It was built by the crawl. It cannot be built any other way. This is why the guidance from conservation groups is so consistent. The Loggerhead Marine Life Center advises observers to keep a minimum distance of 10 feet from sea turtles. Florida guidance recommends an even greater distance of at least 50 yards when possible. The distance is not about protecting human observers. It is about giving the hatchling the space it needs to complete the journey undisturbed. If you find a hatchling in trouble, the correct response is not to pick it up. It is to call the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission hotline 1-888-404-3922. The professionals know what to do, and they know because they understand the biology. The lesson of the crawl is not that nature is cruel. It is that nature is precise. The struggle has a purpose. The difficulty is a feature, not a flaw. Think about what the hatchling learns in that short crawl. It learns direction. It learns effort. It learns the feel of its own body under strain. It learns the scent of the place it was born. It learns the exact angle of the horizon at night. All of this is packed into a journey that lasts minutes, but builds a template for decades. The hatchling that completes the crawl carries all of it into the water. It will ride currents. It will grow. It will travel distances that boggle the human imagination. And years from now, fully grown, it will return to the exact stretch of beach where it once crawled. It will find it because it remembered it, and it remembered it because it was allowed to cross the sand alone. This is the delicate paradox at the heart of sea turtle survival. The most compassionate thing you can do for a hatchling is often nothing at all. To step back, to turn off the light, to let the crawl happen. There is a moment in every hatchling's journey when the front flippers first hit the wet sand. The texture changes, the resistance changes, the body knows it is close. The hatchling pushes harder. The water rushes in, cold and sudden, and the flippers that were built for digging are suddenly lifting and stroking in a rhythm they have never used before. It is awkward for a few seconds. Then it is not. It is fluid. The hatchling is gone. The surface of the water closes over it. A small ripple spreads and fades. The beach is empty again. The nest behind it is quiet. The moon continues its slow arc across the sky. Somewhere out beyond the breakers, the hatchling is already swimming. It is following a map it built itself, one flipper stroke at a time, across a beach that tested it and let it pass. It will not understand why it knows where it is going. It only knows that it does. And that knowledge began in the sand. The next morning, the tide will erase the tracks. The prints of dozens of small flippers will be smoothed away by the same water that received them. There will be no record, no marker, no monument to the journey. But the memory is not in the sand. It is in the body. It is in the magnetic sense that will guide a life. and it will last longer than any footprint untouched. If you walk a nesting beach, look for the tracks before the tide takes them. They are a signature written by the smallest of travelers. They tell the story of an animal that was allowed to do something difficult. And that difficulty is the very thing that carried it forward. The creatures that reach the sea do not look back. There is no sentiment in their departure. There is only the forward motion, the relentless pull of the water, and the hunger that will soon follow. But the narrative is written anyway, in the muscle memory and in the neural pathways, in the quiet imprint of a magnetic field, recorded during a night crawl that no one fully observed. This is the quiet miracle of the crawl. It is invisible, it is essential, and it is not something any human hand can replace. The surface of the water holds the night sky for a moment, a dark mirror that splits and reforms with each wave. The hatchling swims with a certainty that seems impossible for a creature so new. It does not hesitate, it does not circle back. Every stroke carries it away from the land that birthed it and towards something it has never seen but somehow already knows. This is where the story of mutualism reveals its quietest face. On this same beach, in the months before the hatchlings emerge, other creatures have been working in their own patient rhythms. Ghost crabs have tunneled through the sand, aerating it with their passage. Storms have reshaped the shoreline, depositing the fine grains that make a suitable nest. The beach itself is a living partnership, a collaboration between tide and wind and burrower that prepares the stage for the smallest of travelers. The hatchling does not know any of this. It does not need to. It swims on the surface for the first hours of its life, carried by the same currents that shaped the beach it left behind. The water is warm here near the surface, and the hatchling's body is still adjusting to the new medium. The flippers that pushed against sand now pull against water, and each stroke is a small triumph of adaptation. The crawl you just witnessed was invisible to everyone but the hatchling. It did not need an audience, only the partnership of tide, sand, and current. If you want to keep noticing these quiet collaborations, subscribe. Leave a comment with one word that stayed with you from the beach tonight. There is a partnership forming even now, invisible beneath the waves. The hatchling will soon reach the open ocean where it will drift among floating mats of sargassum weed. These golden islands of algae are not just shelter. They are entire communities, teeming with life that will become the hatchling's first food. Tiny crabs, small fish, and countless invertebrates all find refuge in the sargassum. And the hatchling, small and vulnerable, finds both food and protection in the same floating world. The sargassum does not know it is hosting a sea turtle. It is not a conscious partnership, but the relationship is real, and it is ancient. The hatchling that finds the sargassum survives its first weeks. The hatchling that does not is far more likely to perish. The algae does not benefit from the turtle's presence in any obvious way, but the partnership is no less vital for being one-sided. This is the deeper lesson of mutualism. It is not always a transaction between two active partners. Sometimes it is an accident of timing and place, a convergence of needs that happens to sustain life. The hatchling needs shelter. The sargassum provides it without knowing. The result is survival, and survival is the oldest partnership of all. As the hatchling swims, it is already growing. The food sack that sustained it through hatching is nearly empty now. The hunger is beginning, and the ocean, vast and indifferent, is about to become both provider and threat. The hatchling will eat or be eaten. It will grow or be lost. The odds are against it, as they are against every hatchling that enters the sea. Only about 1 in 1,000 hatchlings survives to adulthood. The number is not precise for every species or every beach, but the scale is the same. It is a brutal arithmetic, and it is the reason sea turtles lay so many eggs. The nest that produced this hatchling held more than 100 eggs. Only a fraction of those hatchlings will reach the water. Only a fraction of those will survive in the first year. The mathematics of survival are unforgiving, but the hatchling does not think in fractions. It thinks in hunger, in motion, in the simple imperative to keep going. The open ocean is not hostile to it in the way a beach is hostile. The ocean is just vast. The hatchling is small, and in that vastness, the imprint of the magnetic field is the only constant. The hatchling will spend years in the open ocean, drifting with currents, growing slowly. It will eat what it can find, avoid what it cannot fight, and keep swimming. The magnetic map that was built during the crawl on the beach will guide it, though it will not understand how. It will steer toward warmer waters, toward feeding grounds, toward the invisible highways that sea turtles have followed for millions of years. There is something humbling in this. The hatchling carries within its tiny body a navigation system that human engineers have only recently begun to understand. It reads the Earth's magnetic field with an accuracy that would be the envy of any instrument. It was born with this ability, but it needed the crawl to activate it, to calibrate it, to bind it to a specific place on the map of the world. The crawl, then, is not just a physical journey. It is the moment when the hatchling's navigation system is switched on and tuned. The beach is the testing ground. The magnetic field is the signal, and the hatchling, moving across the sand, is learning to read that signal with an attention that no human observer can fully replicate. Scientists have spent decades trying to understand this process. Kenneth Lohman's work, published in the journal Nature in 2004, showed that sea turtles can detect the Earth's magnetic field and use it for orientation. In 2012, his team reported in the Journal of Experimental Biology that hatchling loggerheads can detect magnetic inclination, the angle at which magnetic field lines intersect the Earth's surface. This is not a simple compass sense. It is a way of reading latitude, of knowing where you are on the globe. The implications are staggering. A hatchling that crawls across a beach in Florida is recording a magnetic signature that will allow it to return to that same beach decades later, after crossing entire oceans. It will navigate by the same field that guided its ancestors before human civilization existed, before streetlights, before the beach was anything but sand and sky. And yet, the partnership between the hatchling and the magnetic field is not one-sided. The magnetic field is a constant, a background hum of the planet. It does not respond to the turtle. It does not guide it deliberately. But the turtle has evolved to read it, and in reading it, the turtle becomes part of a larger system of orientation that links every migratory creature on Earth. Birds use it, whales use it, some fish use it, and now one small hatchling is joining that ancient company. The first day at sea is the hardest. The hatchling is exhausted from the crawl, hungry, and far smaller than most of the creatures that share its waters. It stays near the surface, where the water is warmer and where floating debris offers some cover. It does not dive deep. It cannot. Its body is still adjusting to the pressure and the cold. By the second day, the hatchling has found the sargassum. The floating mats of golden algae are scattered across the surface, and the hatchling slips among them, finding shelter from the sun and from the birds that still patrol the sky. The sargassum is alive with small creatures, and the hatchling begins to eat. Tiny crabs, small shrimp, the larvae of fish, the first meals of a life that will span decades. The ocean is not empty, though it often seems that way. It is a patchwork of currents and eddies, of warm and cold water, of rich and poor feeding grounds. The hatchling will learn to read these signals too, to find the places where food gathers and predators are fewer. It will learn by experience, by trial and error, by the slow accumulation of knowledge that comes from simply staying alive. This is another kind of imprinting. Not the magnetic map of the natal beach, but a map of the ocean itself, built stroke by stroke, meal by meal. The hatchling that survives its first year has learned more about the ocean than most humans will ever know. It has learned where the currents run. It has learned when the food appears. It has learned, in the oldest sense of the word, how to live. And all of it began on a beach, in a crawl that took minutes and covered only a few dozen yards. The physical distance is small. The consequences are infinite. The hatchling that crawls carries the memory of its birthplace into the open ocean, and that memory will guide it home. The hatchling that is carried, that is helped, that is spared the struggle, carries nothing. It is Adrift in every sense of the word. There is no cruelty in this, though it may seem that way. The crawl is not a punishment. It is a gift. It is the moment when the hatchling becomes itself, when the innate potential of its body and brain is activated by the effort of crossing the sand. The struggle is the threshold. The difficulty is the door, and no one can walk through it for another. Think of the things you learned by doing them yourself. Walking, speaking, riding a bike. The falls, the stumbles, the moments of frustration that preceded the moment when it clicked. No one could have done it for you. If they had, you would have learned nothing. The knowledge is in the doing, not in the outcome. The hatchling knows this. It could not articulate it, but it lives it. The mutualism of the crawl is between the hatchling and its own future. The beach gives it a challenge. The challenge builds the strength. The strength carries it forward. The future self, the one that will return to breed decades from now, depends entirely on the effort of that first night. It is a partnership between who the hatchling is and who it will become, and it is a partnership that cannot be outsourced. As the hatchling grows, it will travel to feeding grounds that are thousands of miles from its natal beach. It will cross the Atlantic or the Pacific, following currents and temperature gradients that guide it toward food. The magnetic map will steer it, but the journey is its own. No current will carry it all the way. It will swim, rest, dive, and surface day after day, year after year. There is a rhythm to this life that is hard for humans to grasp. The ocean does not reward speed. It rewards persistence. The hatchling that survives is not the fastest or the strongest. It is the one that keeps going, that adapts, that reads the signals and responds. It is the one that learned to crawl, and through that crawl, learned to live. Somewhere in the deep water beyond the continental shelf, the hatchling finds its rhythm. The flippers move in a steady beat. The heart slows. The world becomes current and temperature and the faint pull of magnetic lines. It is not thinking, not in the way humans think. It is feeling, and in that feeling it is navigating a planet. This is the quiet miracle that the crawl makes possible. It is not visible from the beach. It is not visible from a boat. It is only visible in the survival of a creature that was allowed to do something difficult, that was given the space to struggle, that was not interfered with at the moment of its greatest vulnerability. The hatchling that crawls is the hatchling that lives. It is as simple and as profound as that. The beach at night is a threshold. On one side is the nest, the safety of the dark, the warmth of the sand. On the other side is the ocean, the vastness, the hunger, the journey. The hatchling crosses this threshold alone, and in crossing it, becomes something new. It is not just a turtle anymore. It is a traveler. It is a navigator. It is a creature that knows where it came from, and because of that knowledge, knows where it is going. The partnership that matters most on that beach is the one between the hatchling and its own experience. It is the partnership between effort and strength, between struggle and memory, between the crawl and the life that follows. It is a partnership that has existed for millions of years on every nesting beach, under every moon. And it is a partnership that will end in a single generation if humans do not learn to step back. The hatchling that reaches the surf has already won the first battle. It has crawled. It has imprinted. It has built the map. What follows is the ocean's problem, and the ocean is a different kind of teacher. But the foundation is laid. The lesson is learned. The memory is fixed. And the beach, empty again, returns to its quiet rhythm. The tide comes in. The tide goes out. The sand is smoothed and reworked. The next nest is already being prepared in the darkness beneath the dunes by a mother turtle that once crawled across this same stretch of shore, guided by a map she built herself in the first and most important minutes of her life. The mother turtle that returns to lay her own eggs years from now will follow the same map her hatchling self recorded. But there is a quieter partnership at work in that return, one that connects her to every other creature on that beach. When she hauls herself above the high tide line and digs her nest, she is not just reproducing, she is maintaining a system. The beach needs her as much as she needs it. Consider what a nesting beach is without the turtles. The dunes would still shift with the wind. The tides would still turn. But the nutrient cycle that feeds the dune grasses would be broken. The eggs that hatch and the hatchlings that do not survive return their nutrients to the sand. The yolk, the shells, the bodies of the lost all feed the plants that hold the dunes together. And the dunes, in turn, protect the beach from erosion, keeping the sand stable for the next generation of nests. It is a loop that has run for millions of years. The turtle needs the beach to lay her eggs. The beach needs the turtle to feed its plants. The plants need the roots to hold the sand. And the sand needs to be there for the next turtle. No single actor in this system knows the whole. Each one simply does its part, and the partnership sustains itself. And if this image of a beach needing a turtle and a turtle needing the sand has settled somewhere in your mind, subscribe so you don't drift away from these slow revelations. There are more partnerships like this, hidden beneath the surface, that still need to be seen. If the word cycle took on new weight for you today, let it sit in the comments below. Just that word. This is the mutualism that exists beyond the visible moments of cooperation. It is not a bird picking ticks from a buffalo's hide. It is slower, quieter, harder to see, but it is no less real. The hatchling that crawls into the sea is not just saving itself. It is participating in a cycle that will feed the beach, stabilize the dunes, and prepare the shore for the turtles that will come after it. Even in death, the hatchling serves the system. Even in failure, it contributes. Scientists who study coastal ecology have documented this nutrient transfer. The eggs that wash out of nests, the hatchlings that are taken by predators, the shells left behind after emergence, all deliver marine nutrients to the terrestrial ecosystem. The beach, which seems like a barren strip between land and water, is actually a rich exchange zone, and the turtle is one of its most important agents. The hatchling that survives carries this legacy forward. It grows, it feeds, it travels, and when it is finally old enough to breed, it returns to the beach where it was born. The map that was imprinted during the crawl guides it home. It drags itself up the sand, digs a nest, and lays its eggs. The cycle begins again. The partnership between the turtle and the beach is renewed for another generation. But the return is not guaranteed. The odds are still against it. The ocean is full of dangers, and the hatchling that survived its first year still faces decades of threats. Nets, hooks, plastic, boat strikes, warming waters that shift the currents it depends on. The list is long, the attrition is real, and yet, the ones that make it back are enough. The species persists, the cycle holds. There is a particular kind of patience in the sea turtle's life cycle. It does not rush. It grows slowly over years and decades. It does not breed every year. It waits. It rests. It conserves its energy, and when the time is right, it makes the long journey home. This patience is itself a form of wisdom, a lesson in the value of time that humans, with our short attention spans and instant everything, have largely forgotten. The hatchling that crawled across the beach carried the seed of that patience within it. The crawl was its first lesson in endurance. Every pause, every rest, every moment of stillness between bursts of effort was a rehearsal for the long decades to come. The hatchling does not know this. It simply lives it, and in living it, it becomes the turtle it was always meant to be. As the sun rises over the ocean, the hatchling is still swimming. It has not stopped. It will not stop for a long time. The water is warm, the currents are favorable, and the sargassum mats are ahead. The first day of its ocean life is ending. The first night is approaching, and the long journey is only just beginning. Days pass. The hatchling grows, slowly but measurably. The food sack is gone now, replaced by real food, by the tiny creatures that shelter in the sargassum. The shell that was soft and flexible begins to harden. The flippers that were clumsy in the surf become precise and strong. The hatchling is becoming a juvenile, and the juvenile is becoming a traveler. It is a strange life, drifting with the currents. There is no fixed home. There is no territory to defend. There is only the endless ocean and the invisible map that guides the way. The hatchling does not decide where to go. It follows the signals, the temperature, the current, the magnetic pull, and in following, it finds what it needs. The open ocean is not empty, though it appears that way to human eyes. It is full of life, most of it small, most of it invisible. The hatchling feeds on it constantly. Tiny jellyfish, floating snails, the larvae of crabs and fish. The ocean is a soup of potential meals, and the hatchling is finding its way through it, growing stronger with every bite. It is a solitary life. The hatchling does not seek out others of its kind. It does not school or flock or herd. It is alone in the vastness, and it survives by being small, by being quick, by being aware. The predators are many. The sharks, the larger fish, the birds that still patrol the surface. But the hatchling is learning to avoid them, to dive when the shadow falls, to hide in the sargassum when danger passes. This solitude is not loneliness. It is a condition of survival. The hatchling that draws attention does not last long. The hatchling that is invisible, that moves without a trace, that blends into the floating debris and the dark water, is the one that endures. It is a lesson in humility, in the power of being unremarkable. Years pass. The hatchling becomes a juvenile, then a subadult. It has grown from the size of a human hand to the size of a dinner plate, then to the size of a large dog. It has traveled thousands of miles following the currents around the ocean basins. It has learned the feeding grounds, the migration routes, the seasonal rhythms of the sea. And all of this knowledge is built on the foundation of that first crawl. The magnetic map is still there. It has never faded. The hatchling, now nearly adult, can still feel the pull of its natal beach, thousands of miles away. It is a constant, a quiet hum beneath the surface of its awareness. And one day, when it is fully grown and ready to breed, it will follow that pull home. The journey back is not easy. The turtle must cross the same ocean it crossed as a hatchling, but now in reverse. It must navigate the same currents, the same temperature gradients, the same magnetic fields. It must avoid the same predators, though now they are fewer. And it must find its way to a stretch of beach that it has not seen for decades. Guided only by a memory that was formed in a single night of crawling, it is one of the most remarkable navigational feats in the animal kingdom. And it is made possible by the crawl. The crawl is the seed, the return is the flowering. Without the one, the other cannot happen. The hatchling that is carried to the water, that is spared the crawl, never forms the map, and without the map, there is no return. There is no flowering. There is only a life adrift, unanchored, directionless. This is the full weight of the lesson. It is not just about the first 60 seconds of a hatchling's life. It is about the entire life that follows. The crawl is the beginning of a chain that extends for decades and across oceans. Break the first link, and the whole chain falls. Preserve the first link, and the chain holds. And the chain is not just the turtles. It is the chain of the species, stretching back millions of years and forward into an uncertain future. Every hatchling that crawls is a continuation of that chain. Every hatchling that is helped, that is prevented from crawling, is a break in it. The choice is made in a moment, on a beach in the dark, but its consequences ripple through generations.